Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, listen, going through a divorce can be one of the toughest things, most difficult things that a family ever have to go through. Because you think about it, you have two people that come together as a couple, and they basically vow. A lot of times, their whole life, they thought about getting married. They thought about what it'd be look like. They saw pictures, they saw videos, they saw movies, and they have this idea of this romantic situation and happy ever after. But how many of you know, just like life, things happen. Things happen in life that sometimes we don't expect, and there's no more damaging thing or difficult thing to go through within a relationship, within a family, outside of death, is a divorce of a couple. And so in this video, I want to talk a little bit about some ways that we can cope with separation, cope with divorce, especially when you have children involved. You see, I know personal firsthand experience. I was married in 1998, and when I got married, my ex-wife, she had a 4-year-old son who I helped raise until he was, up to even to this day, till he was 18 before we got divorced. And then we had 3 children together as well, 3 daughters. And I'll never forget, I was that person. I thought that marriage was going to be forever. I thought that once I said I do, it means I did, and we do it forever. But how many times you know that your vision may not be somebody else's vision, and there's things that happen. And it doesn't matter so much what happened or what didn't happen. The very fact is that when two people decide to separate. All right, so this is a continuation from the last video. We're talking about about coping with divorce and separation. And as I was sharing my story, I was just basically saying that, yes, I did not design or set it up or set out to be divorced, but it does happen. And there's times that, there's things that when we found ourselves in those situations, that we found ourselves realizing that, it was tough. It wasn't just tough on the individuals who were in a divorce, but it was tough for the whole entire family. Because as children's standpoint, you think about it, all they're thinking about doing is they're thinking about growing up with the mom and the dad that brought them in that relationship. From a relationship spouse standpoint, a lot of times they're just thinking about, hey, what can I do, that I set up myself to just be in this relationship to grow happily ever after. But sometimes what happens is that when two visions come together, two visions equals division equals divorce. And so again, in this video, I'm going to share some tips in terms of how to cope with separation and divorce. Some things that I went through personally, some things that I did that I believe that, I truly believe that through our life and life experiences, we're here to help other people. We're here to help encourage other people as they're going through their traveling their life. And so understanding that, so one of the first things that I had to do, when I was going through the divorce and separation, is I had to recognize, that it's okay to have different type of feelings. I had to realize that, it's okay for me to not, to be sad. It's okay to be, angry at times. It's okay to be upset. And in some cases, it's okay to just don't know. And so, number one, I had to give myself permission to feel. You think about it. Human emotions is a human expression, a natural expression of human existence. And we relate to things in our life, we relate to people in our life based off our emotions. And so understanding when things happen like that, it's okay. It's okay to have every type of emotion. You don't have to be upset. You don't have to be excited. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to be anything but be present. And so one of the first things I had to do is realize that it was okay. It was okay for me to feel this way. Because again, in life, it's not so much what happens to you, okay, but it's how you react to those things that's happening to you, okay? It's how do we respond that made a difference. So for me, understanding that it's okay to have different feelings. Another thing I had to do is I had to kind of give myself a break. See, I was used to so much time of just a regular routine. I go to work, then maybe come home and take care of the family, and we go through the regular thing. As a father, I handle those responsibilities. As a husband, I handle those responsibilities. But now, all of a sudden, it was a totally different change in routine. And I remember going through a period of time like, man, what do I do? What do I do now? And there was a big pull from the inside of me that was only used to doing certain things. And it was kind of like at this stage of my life, well, I felt like I was so uncertain. I didn't know who I was at the moment because I had developed so much of being married for 12 years, okay, being a father, being a husband and all that now, what do I do? And so at that moment, I had to give myself a break. I had to give myself permission to have a break, to feel what it is that I was feeling, to go through this period of time instead of just jumping over it and just getting over it. And sometimes some of the worst advice you can ever have is somebody just to say, man, just get over it. Well, you get over it. For me, it matters. For me, it hurts. And for me, there's a loss. And there's certain phases of loss that I must go through, which means I may go through a period of denial that no, it's not over. I may go through a period of anger where I'm like, man, what happened? Or you feel regret or shame for what happened or what didn't happen. And then I may go through a situation where I start to isolate myself because I don't want anybody to find out. I don't want anybody to know that I failed and I didn't get it right. And then after I go through those phases, I start to really start bargaining like, okay, well, you know what? How about if I do this? Maybe we'll get back together. Maybe this will work it out. I go through those phases. And then finally, I start to wind up accepting it. And I start to realize over a period of time, and through giving myself a break, giving myself an opportunity to digest what I was feeling, digest what am I thinking, and then to be able to introduce myself to begin a plan about what is the next phases of my life going to look like. What are the first things I need to do? What direction am I heading? And so by giving myself a break, it gave me the permission, and it gave me the opportunity to really start to really recognize what was going on the inside of me, so that what's going on the inside of me can be now developed into a way to help determine what's going to go on the outside of me. So giving myself a break was the next thing that I had to realize that I had to do at that moment. You know, you figure during those times you give yourself a break, yeah, you're not going to be at your optimal. Your job may suffer a little bit. Your production may suffer. Why? Because at the core, you know, that's one of the reasons why in the Bible, when God says he hates divorce, he doesn't hate the people that go through divorce. He just hates the divorce from the standpoint, because what does it do? It tears at the very core of who you are. And so when you tear at the very core of who you are or who you become, now you have to patch it together. Now you got to build it all over the place. You know what I mean? It's like a skyscraper. A skyscraper can only go as high as the strength of the foundation. And when you come together, you're unifying in a marriage, okay, you built upon a foundation. And now when the foundation the foundation is ripped up or the foundation is altered, you still have this tall building, but you got to get in there and you got to repair it. And so again, going through those things, trying to, maintain the job or maintain the finances. Now find out how do you work with the schedules and all the plans. There may be some slack or some lack or some dipping in the performance. But again, just know, and you're giving yourself a break, it's okay. And so the third thing that I really realized is that, I couldn't go through this by myself. One of the stages of transition and loss is that people tend to isolate themselves. And it's a natural thing at first. But my recommendation was don't go through this alone. And so one of the things that I did is, outside of us trying to get counseling or, me wanting to go to counselor, I started to talk to somebody on my own. I had friends or family members or friends or people that have been through it, not just people that's going through it. Because if you get people that's just going through it, man, y'all going to talk about how bad the other person is, and you just want to feel understood. And in being understood, that person may be there and they may just side with everything you're saying, which at the end of the day can actually hold you back from growing, because you just want somebody to understand the pain that you're feeling. But not going through this alone says, I need to find somebody who's been through this. I need to find somebody who has some wisdom over this. I need to read something. I need to watch something on a video. And I did that. I talked to people. I talked to, my pastor. I talked to the ministers. I talked to other friends. I talked to my family members, people who I felt that could really understand and give me an opportunity to help me go through this. And I did that. And so for you as well, don't try to go through this thing, alone. Understand that there's people here. Surround yourself with the right people. There's a passage in the Bible that says, man, don't cast your pearls upon swine. You know what that means? Don't cast the most precious things of your life to the people, that does not know how to handle it, that cannot appreciate it, that cannot understand it, that cannot help you move forward. So you have to be very selective in terms of who you surround yourself with, who can pour into your life, because yes, you will come through it. You will come through it if you surround yourself with the right people, if you give yourself permission to move forward. And so again, don't go through this alone. The next thing I had to understand that you got to take care of yourself. emotionally and physically. It's very tempting at those moments with the very core of your foundation and your existence, okay, that marital existence or that relationship, which you put so much time and energy and emotion in. When that's rattled, a lot of times you start thinking that, you know what, you don't want to do nothing but sit around and think about those problems, think about those issues, or you want to kind of just drink your time away, or you want to just spend the pain away, whatever it may be. But it's during these times that you have to really take care of yourself, emotionally and physically. That means recognizing, how am I feeling? When you're going to ask, how am I feeling right at this moment? And how do I want to feel? And then based off of how you want to feel and how you're feeling at that moment, by taking care of yourself, has everything to do with taking care of this, taking care of your mind. What are you focusing on? What is the image that you're constantly holding in your mind? And if that image is negative, if that image is hurtful, if that image is degrading, if that image is of loss, is of pain, then whatever you focus on, you're giving life to. So taking care of yourself physically, taking care of yourself emotionally, that means yes, go work out, go for a walk, go lift weights, go exercise something, because what helps you get through those moments, especially those moments of sadness and hurt and pain, is a chemical within our mind called dopamine. And when you exercise, it's automatically starts to get released. And from a physiological standpoint, when it gets released, it helps you with your concentration. It helps you with your focus. It helps you overcome the things that's most depressing and hurtful. All because at the moment when you feel like sitting down doing nothing, you make an intentional decision that I'm going for a walk, I'm going for a jog. And even though it doesn't feel good for me right now, I gotta be intentional with the act of my will. And when you do that, it helps you be able to have more clarity, and it helps you be able to make decisions. So again, make sure you take care of yourself emotionally, from there. Another thing I had to realize is that this is a new relationship. That means my interaction with this other person, my ex-spouse, is a totally different one. And it's almost where I have to almost get to know this person. You see, what happens when you lose your identity and you're trying to gain it back, a lot of times you push against anything that looks like the former identity. Always remember this. When what you do becomes who you are, when you stop doing what you do, you can lose who you are. You can lose your identity. And so in my situation, if I was just being a football player and a husband and a father at that time, if that's how I identify with myself, if I lost any one of those things, it's very tempting for me to feel lost. And so in order for me to find myself and find my identity in what it is beyond that, I gotta sometimes almost push away almost everything that looks like the former. So the same thing can happen in a relationship, in a marital relationship, when you're going through separation and divorce. When a person has been in a relationship for a while and they're now into a new relationship, or they're out of that relationship through separation or divorce, when they're trying to find who they are, which is not the married person no more, not the person in a relationship, a lot of times what seemed rational before, which seemed the way you can communicate before and you can come to a certain terms, now it's different. Because now a person is thinking solely about, how do I now become individual in myself? And so that energy and the effort and the emotion they put towards trying to become the new person has everything to do with how far and how much they push against the old person. So what does that look like in practicality? It looks like when it comes to trying to negotiate or talk or conversate or communicate about what you do together now, you may find yourself with the resistance of someone trying to do whatever they want to do, have more control. They be more, put their stake down a little bit more, be a little more unreasonable, a little irrational. Why? Because it's based on a person trying to find out who they are at that stage. And they don't want to be controlled, because them giving in or engaging in the way they used to says to them that they haven't left it yet. And so again, I say this to you as I had to for me. Don't take it personal. Just know that this other person is now engaging in something that's trying to find something that they haven't discovered yet. And they're trying to do everything they can. So what does that mean? That means that there are going to be some times where there can be some arguments that may arise. And so my encouragement to you is avoid all type of power struggles. Avoid all type of arguments. Avoid them. Avoid them. Be the bigger person. Okay, be the bigger person because they may not be as rational at that moment. So you pick your battles so you can win the war. You choose your battles so you can win the war. What is the war? The war is the vision that you have at the end. And the vision at the end is that, hey, you're able to deal with this person as a unique child of God, a person no matter what you went through, but a person that has given you moments that have been a part of your life. And although it didn't end right, or this season may not feel right, you can still get to the place where you can deal with them, you can engage with them. And as I say now, somebody who is successfully and happily divorced, meaning that I've moved beyond that relationship and I moved into my next situation, which I was fortunate to get remarried and find my soulmate in my next marriage. And so again, what is the war? That is, what does it look like at the end? I'm fortunate today to be able to say, hey, I have a relationship and a good cordial relationship with my ex-wife. I have a great relationship with my children that went beyond that. Did it take work? Yes, it does. It does, but it's worth it. And so that means in order for me to win the war, where we have this situation where we're all on the same page, meaning we can talk about things, we can engage in things, we can have crucial conversation, but we know that it's not like before, we can move the ball forward, has everything to do with me understanding that I have to, in order to win the war, I got to choose the battles. That means I got to be selective about what things that I am kind of demanding, and or what things that I am basically want my way, or what things I want to compromise or not compromise, so that we can win the war. And so again, that's another thing I had to do is take time to explore your interests. One of the greatest benefits that I can look back now and say I'm grateful for my divorce is because I got a chance to understand that when I felt like I was forced into this new life of individuality and discovery, what it produced a opportunity of time where I got a chance to find out, what is it that Donovan really likes? What is it that I like to do outside of just being the father, outside of just being the husband? What does that look like? And I had to learn, and I discovered that, I really like to communicate. See, if I didn't get divorced, I probably wouldn't do what I am doing right now to the level I'm doing it. But through the divorce time, there was a blessing in disguise. Because with me not having to be distracted or spend time doing other stuff, it gave me time to spend with myself. It gave me time to spend reading, watching, and really working and developing a plan. Where the only thing that I had to focus on was how fast I wanted to go, where do I want to go, what did I want to do. And so again, through divorce, one of the ways you can cope with divorce or separation is understanding that takes some time. Take time, to explore your interests. You can sign up for a class. You can sign up for a class. You can take a trip. You can find a hobby that you always wanted to do. Listen, it's all about what you decide. See, divorce didn't happen to you. Divorce could have happened for you. Now it's up to you to discover why it happened and what is the blessing that is now present for you. Doesn't mean that the pain, it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean that you're not disappointed. Doesn't mean that you may not have wanted another way, but it is what it is, right? Now what? It is what it is. Now what? Now what are you going to do? What are you going to say? Where are you going to go? And what is your next chapter of your life is going to be? And so, and the last thing I wanted to tell you guys too is understand that you listen, that encourage as you cope and you deal with it for the children as well as for the adults. Think positive about it. Think positive about your life and your situation. Monitor your thoughts. Understand that life will get back to normal. It may be a new normal, but it will get back to normal. You see, before you ever got in that relationship, you had a life and lifestyle. And then as you got into that relationship, you started to spend your time, your energy, your resources, and all those things, developing, cultivating what that newness was. Well, now you're in a new chapter. And typically, like a book, when you go to a new chapter, there's usually a different location. There's usually a different setting. There's usually a different climax. There's usually different characters. Some characters still come over, but then sometimes now you have the new characters. So when you think positive about this, I want you to think about this. Man, your best days are ahead of you. Your most impactful ways and days are ahead of you. The greatest relationships you've ever had are about to be presented to you. But they'll never be presented to you if you fail to move forward. If you don't give yourself permission to move forward, and if you don't forgive. And forgiving what? Forgive yourself and forgiving the other person. Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is giving yourself permission to move forward. And so listen, as you think about these things, man, there are some things that, as the adults that we can do. But then as you know, we also have kids in here. And what do you do when you're trying to cope with this with the kids? How do you help them move along? Because of course, adults, we have a lot of life. We have a lot of experiences, and sometimes we can do things a little easier, a little better, just because we're a little older, and we can make change. But what about the kids? The kids that this just seemed to spring on them. So how do you help them cope with it? Okay, first thing you do is that, what I do with my children, you have to reassure them and listen to them. Talk to them. How does this make you feel? What do you think about it? Because for the most time, a lot of times kids think that the divorce is their fault. Because when they see mommy or daddy struggling on one thing, they feel pulled. They feel in between. They can feel confused. But here's what you do. You reassure them and you let them know that it's not their fault. You listen to them. You listen to their concerns. You listen to them compassionately. And you let them know that, listen, mommy and dad has made a decision. But we made a decision not to be together into the marriage. But here's the decision that we made together. And that is to never leave you, never forsake you, to support you, to never put you in the middle of this, but to always love on you. And although that this may be a challenging time for us as adults, we're going to do our best to make this the best it can be for you. And let them know compassionately that I'm always going to be here. That if you have a situation, you're confused, you're hurt, you're going through it, just know that we're going to be here for you. And so again, one of the first ways you can do is you can reassure them and listen to them. Next thing is try to maintain stability in your routines. See, when a marriage breaks up, a lot of times it breaks up because people now are in different places and live in different places. But the more you can maintain the routine and the schedules, maintain that stability. You see, children need that stability. See, they're developing into a life where all around them through what they see on TV, what they hear, what's going on in their schools, what's going on in the movies, okay, what they're going on the inside as they're developing, there's a lot of uncertainty about themselves. And so the last place you want uncertainty is in their home. And so the more you can give them the stability and the routines, the more you can allow them to be distracted as they're starting to grow, as you're trying to figure things out. You maintain those stability, you maintain those routines, because that's what's going to help them understand that, oh, okay, even though mommy and daddy are a little different and when they're not always around, I still get a chance to have my friends. I still get a chance to do what it is that I'm used to doing. I get a chance to still, almost and sometimes escape to the places, that brings me peace and joy, and it's not presenting with me, forcing me to choose. And so again, understand and maintain stability routine. And then the same thing is, offer consistent discipline. Offer the consistent discipline. That just basically means that now that they're separating, the parents have to make a decision. What are we going to do together? How will we discipline them together? What are the things that we're going to have them do no matter what? This kind of goes back to the stability and the routine. What are you going to now do? I remember for me and my kids, going through that divorce, it was tough because they were living up far away. And when they came over, okay, dad had certain things that I like to do that when we were together that I would press upon. My ex-wife their mom had ideas on what she wanted to do. And so we had to kind of come together, choose our battles and say, hey, for the sake of the children, what are we going to do? And how are we going to maintain this? And so we had to maintain that thing. And the last thing I'll say is don't involve the children in the conflict. Whatever you can, this is the most important thing. Don't talk negative about the other person to them. Be the bigger person. One of the worst things you can do, because children are wide open sponges. And if you're going through a divorce, I know you want the children to side with you, or you want the children to understand what you understand, but they're not ready sometimes to understand it with the depth and the breadth that you want to give it. And so anytime you talk negative about the significant other, what you're doing is you're actually talking negative about them. Because remember, they came from the other person. And from a child standpoint who's trying to understand who they are, and they know they've come from that person. And when you talk bad about that person, it's putting a stain on their heart. It's putting a stain in their mind to say that that person's bad, then I'm going to be bad too. And see, that's a very tough thing for children to go through. That's very tough for them to digest and understand and make the same distinctions that you can about what is true about them as you're saying is true about the other mate. So whatever you can, don't involve them in a conflict. Never try not the best you can to argue with them. Try, with around them about the other person. Try not to just dump on them. Try to maintain the fact that you know what, they are a good father or they are a good mother. And despite the fact that despite the fact that we as adults made a decision not to, reassure them that they're okay and that this is not their fault and you're always going to be here for them. And so listen, man, I hope that this was encouraging to you. Know that dealing with and coping with divorce and separation is not easy. But what makes it easier is having some strategies, having some ideals. And so I say that, if this message was encouraging to you, man, don't forget, share this. Apply it. What we do in the trenches, what you do in the valley, has everything to do with how high you go on the mountaintop. And so you may be going through that valley experience right now, but I'm here to tell you that it's a blessing in disguise. You may not understand it right now. Everything in life has a purpose, and there's a purpose to everything, although we don't understand the purpose at the segment at that time. But I am saying that it can be the greatest moment for you if you decide to look at it that way. I didn't say it feels good, but based off of the action and decisions that you make will determine how well it works out for you. Listen, I'm Donovan Darris, former 10-year NFL player, professional life strategist, and motivational speaker, as well as coach and author. I hope that you've enjoyed this message. I'll see you guys on the next video as we talk about winning in the family. God bless you guys. Talk to you later. Peace.